Let's jump in. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. So we're going through this journey together of exploring Notion for Salesforce admins. I feel like for the last 2 weeks or so, Notion has been occupying way more of my brain cell activity than it should. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, in a way, it's the act of trying to get more organized is distracting me from doing my actual work that I need to do, which is a challenge by itself. But anyway, I'm thinking, and I'm sure most of you are as well, which is what got you to be here today, that as admins, aside from doing whatever it is that we do in Salesforce, aside from the things that can easily be tracked in Salesforce for the company's prospects and customers and phone calls, meetings, to-dos, interactions, etc. Aside from all of that, we as admins, we are often coming across, whether it's information about features in an upcoming release, whether it's about maybe it's best practices regarding building a formula field or a validation rule or a piece of automation, or maybe we are exploring some different apps on the App Exchange, or maybe even taking notes from a user group meetup. Someone shares this like brilliant idea, and where on earth am I supposed to capture those notes to actually access it when I truly need it? And so that's, in my mind, that's the core of what we're focusing on together, which is, to rephrase it in a slightly different way, creating a, maybe, I don't know if I should use the word personal or maybe selfish, not so terrible to use, a selfish repository, knowledge bank for ourselves as Salesforce admins that are not necessarily tied to the job that our current place of employment. It's tied to us, our knowledge and expertise and pieces of information, whether it's breadcrumbs or an entire full-blown repositories of information that we come across in our lives as Salesforce admins and in our career, to have easy access to it. I'll pause right there. Did I miss anything? Does anyone want to chime in? This is not a presentation by any means, by the way. This is meant to be a collaborative discussion. Anyone have any thoughts on what I just said? Nobody has any thoughts on that. Fine, be that way. So what I'm thinking first is, I know that some of you, for many of us, completely brand new. Some like Mitch, some of you like Mark, Roxanne, I didn't see if she's in here yet. Some of you have been using Notion for some time. I think in order to create like a level playing field where everyone's talking the same language, I'll give all of you the fundamentals and an overview of Notion. And let me do that by first sharing my screen. Of all the screens that I have, which one? Let's do this one. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen in Notion. I'm using the desktop application. So basically, for those of you who are familiar with OneNote or Evernote, let's start with that as a point of reference. And similar to OneNote or Evernote, you can use Notion to just capture, whether it's ideas, thoughts, a task list, a bulleted list, things to get at the supermarket, things I want to accomplish over the next month. You can also store links, documents, videos, and you can embed videos, PDFs, web clippings. And you can also do all of that kind of stuff. As someone who has used Evernote extensively for the last 10 years, and for the last 10 years, I absolutely loved Evernote. I'll also start off by sharing with you the differences, because many people are familiar with Evernote. The differences that I've seen so far between Notion and Evernote. So you could just throw pretty much anything into Notion just like you can with Evernote. Evernote is, in my mind, just an unstructured database. In the end, it totally is a database, because with Evernote, you have notes, you have notebooks, and then you have stacks. And in addition, you also have system-generated date and timestamps, who created what, the geolocation of where a user was when they created or edited a particular note in Evernote. So all of those, yeah, those are all database entries. But in terms of what you're actually putting in the note, it's completely unstructured, which is part of the beauty of Evernote. Notion, similarly, allows you to have an unstructured database. The same way you could throw in anything into an Evernote note, you could do the same thing in Notion, and it's totally unstructured. However, in Notion, you can build whatever structure you want to build out, similar to what we are used to in Salesforce, not identical by any means, but similar to what we are used to in Salesforce, where you can create tables, you can create fields, and you can put attributes to those fields, a single pick list, multi-select pick list. You can have date fields, all different kinds of things. You can relate tables to each other, similar to Salesforce, where you can have like junction objects. But in the end, when you're looking at an actual record in Notion, you still have that similar functionality to Evernote, where it could be totally unstructured. And I'm going to show you soon what I mean by all of that. Some other key differences between Evernote and Notion is that in Evernote, there are some areas of functionality that Evernote has that Notion does not. In my mind, it's still not worth keeping Evernote for that, but they are really cool features, and I can only wish and hope that one day those features will show up in Notion also. And what am I talking about? The ability to search within PDFs and images. When I say PDFs, even PDFs without character recognition. So in Evernote, you could take a photo, for example, you could be at Target and take a photo of some random product. And if the name, let's say the name of the product was on there, or you took a picture of towels and it had the sticker or the tag on it that said towels and the price, whatever, those words are totally searchable without the user doing anything. Evernote recognizes the letters, the words in there, in that image, and makes it completely searchable. So if you're taking photos of, let's say, ingredients, you can search those ingredients in Evernote and those images will come up. You can't do that in Notion. Similarly, in Evernote, Evernote will also recognize handwriting as the letters. It won't convert it to text, but it will recognize the letters, so you can then search the words that were written, handwritten. So if you're jotting down notes on paper and then snapping a picture of the handwritten note, those words now become searchable. You can't do anything like that in Notion. So there are some very real differences. The other major difference that I found so far is that Evernote, the web clipper in Evernote, let's leverage a use case for us as Salesforce admins. We're on a blog article that we feel that this blog article will be really helpful for us in the future, and we want to save it in Evernote. When you're in Evernote, in the web clipper for Evernote, so the plugin for the browser, you actually have a lot of different options available to you. You can just grab a screenshot of that, whatever screen it is, or a section of the screen, so you can like draw a box or a rectangle on the screen and just grab a screenshot of it. You can select the entire page, in other words, the menu, any ads that might be on there, the footer, so the entire, everything that's on the entire page. You can select a simplified version of the article, meaning Evernote will recognize what is the core piece of content on that web page and allow you to select that, or just bare bones raw text. That's text and embedded images that are in there. You can select that as well. So Evernote has all of those features embedded within the web clipper, as well as you can not only specify what notebook it should be assigned to, you can also assign tags and also put your own commentary without leaving your browser, without leaving that blog article. With Evernote, you can do all of those things before hitting send to Evernote. With Notion, the web clipper is far more rudimentary and simplistic, where it's simply, you can just choose what notebook or the equivalent of a notebook, like where that thing should get saved, and that's it. In order to do anything else, you need to actually go into that record in Notion to modify it. There definitely are some differences. In my mind, the power of having the structured database is what makes all the difference in the world, because in the last 10 years that I've been using Evernote, I've been just shoving tons of information in there and find it really hard. The search is fantastic, but find it really hard to get everything out. So for example, if I want to on the fly do a search and then group all of my notes from Evernote that relate to a particular topic, associate them to something to group them together as a structured database, it's really hard to do that. Whereas with Notion, you have a lot more flexibility. That's really it in terms of comparing what Evernote is compared to Notion, or giving a high level overview of Notion functionality. Anyone have any thoughts or questions on any of that before I start showing you just the basics of using Notion? Hi, Roxanne.
Hi, sorry I was late. The doctor called.
Oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry. It's all good. It's all good. All right. So let me show you what we have going on over here. So I purposely pulled up a brand new page. Hang on, I see there's something going on in the chat, and I was not looking at the screen whatsoever for the chat. Yes, sorry, I'm catching up. The comments about Confluence. I agree that Notion is in a way very similar to Confluence. By the way, I love Confluence. I just migrated all of my stuff from Confluence and Jira into Notion. Personally, I think Confluence is fantastic, is an incredibly powerful tool. I think it has more functionality, like to the detriment of Confluence, if that even makes sense. I think it's a very cumbersome tool to use, Confluence, versus Notion is just way faster, way more flexible. Also with Confluence, I might be wrong, but I don't think in Confluence, like on one page in Confluence, you can set up a table which truly functions as a real database and then reference that table in another page of Confluence. You can have that table appear in multiple places, but I don't think it could truly be leverage it. I don't think you could truly, I might be wrong, but I don't think you could truly structure it as a database and have a filtered view of that table from page one in Confluence to another page in Confluence. Again, I might be wrong, but to me, that's a really big difference. And yes, Confluence is way more expensive. Way more expensive. All right, so let me show you over here. I'm sharing my screen, and I'm purposely on a blank page over here, and I'm just going to skip down over here and just click anywhere on the screen as if I want to take notes. So let's make believe I just had a conversation with someone and they just shared some maybe best practices and maybe recommended action items for me. So I can go over here. Let's say we're talking about best practices around structuring, I don't know, roles and profiles or something like that. I'm just purposely picking anything random. Someone just enlightened me, and I now realize that roles in Salesforce should represent the org hierarchy of who reports to whom in the database, and should look very similar to the HR org hierarchy. And let's say I want to now have a list of resources, maybe YouTube videos or other articles. So what I'm going to do right now is, let me just open over here in my browser, Salesforce roles and profiles, and I'll just randomly pick some articles just to show you what it's like. Let's do this and copy link. So I'm going to go over here, resources to learn more, and let's make it a bulleted list. And when I paste this over here, okay, why is it not doing that for me? Hang on, I might have done something wrong myself. Let me get rid of this whole thing and let's paste it again without the bullet in front of it. Was it the dot? What am I doing wrong?
What are you trying to do?
I wanted to show how you can, it gives you the option to save it as a bookmark, which gives you a little preview of it. And I honestly have no idea what I'm doing here. Let's see if I do this.
It's the turn into, if you hover over that. So sorry, maybe you did have to right click on it. And then it says turn into, and now you can turn it into synced block.
No, but I wanted to turn it into a bookmark, which gives you a preview of what's in there. That's what, okay, whatever. Honestly, that's not even that important.
I think it's not actually a URL. There's some text.
You're 100% right. Okay, let's delete it because I just saved it from the search bar, from the search results. What I'm going to do is this. I'll open. Gotta love that in a Zoom meeting, right? Let me do cutting and pasting this URL over here. And let's see if this, thank you. That did it. So when I cut and paste the URL, you could see dismiss will just leave it alone. It'll just treat it exactly like what you saw a moment ago. And here you can see I have these two other options, create a bookmark. And what that does is it does something like this, which is pretty neat, by the way, where it gives you this. It gives you a little bit of a preview of what is in that destination website. And let's go ahead and let's find something that's really weird, that of all of the results, I did not get the appropriate material on Trailhead or YouTube. So you see here, I have it again. Let's do a create embed. And it actually looks almost the same as the other one. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to, in my browser window, I'm going to purposely search for YouTube just to show you what it's like when you cut and paste a video from YouTube. Let's do this one and
hello everyone.
Copy
Well,
and paste. And you see here it's showing embed video. And now I will be able to actually play the video directly in here. So I'm purposely showing you some very basic things. Now, things I need to do to better implement roles in Salesforce. And now let's go ahead and I'll turn it into a check, a series of check boxes. And what you can see over here, it's gray on my screen. And this is a key feature within Notion, where basically when you're on a new line and you click on, you press the slash, you get this menu option. And it allows you to choose what type of thing, how you want to format whatever it is that you're about to put into the system. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to choose to-do list. And now it's formatted with a checkbox over here. Need to get the HR org chart for the company. Need to understand who reports to who. Need to review the Salesforce config. Need to update the Salesforce config to match the org chart. So now I have this list over here. Actually, before I go on, anyone have any questions on anything that I showed so far? For some of you, this is brand new. For some of you, this is complete review. And you're like, okay, move on, David, move on. Everyone
Can you show
so
what it
far?
looks like? Oh, I'm sorry. Can you show what it looks like when you check things off? Just that
Yep,
I think it throws a line through it.
Yeah, so you can do
Next,
this and you can indicate that it's done. Now, there's a bunch of other things that you can do here that I think, again, coming from Evernote, where this, and this is, to me, this is not about like constantly comparing Evernote to Notion, because it's about how to leverage Notion as a Salesforce admin. And to me, this is one of the things that I think is so insanely cool. Let's say as I'm structuring this page together, I'm like, you know what, it's a little bit overwhelming. I have a lot going on over here. And over here where it says like resources to learn more, in theory, okay, I have only 3 items listed here. In theory, it could be a whole lot more. Maybe someone emailed me, or as I'm doing my Google research, I'm coming across tons of different articles, and I want to be able to focus on that checklist that I have here. And this is distracting, but I don't want to get rid of it. I want to have it here, easily accessible, but I want to hide it at times. So what I'm going to do over here is for any element that's on the screen, you can see like for this line, when I hover over it, we have these 6 dots on the left-hand side, and to the left of the 6 dots, there's a plus sign. So if I click on the plus sign, I can simply add, so it's like putting in a hard return and hitting that slash that I showed you earlier, where I can then simply insert something else. If I go here and I simply hover over these six dots, this is where we have some of these options, and in particular, we have turn into. So watch this. If I go here where it says resources to learn more, and I click on those 6 dots and I select here turn into, and I choose toggle, and I choose here toggle list, what it will do is it will give me this functionality where I can then toggle this list. Then I can go over here for each of these items, I can select them, because in the end, each item that I put in each line is its own element, or I think the appropriate terminology in Notion is block. Each line is a block, each page is a block, each record is a block. So blocks can be used in a ton of different ways. So I can then select all of those blocks and then I can just drag them into here. And by doing that, I just moved all of those elements into this portion of the screen. I'm going to pause because I want to make sure I'm not going too fast for anyone. Anyone have any questions on what I just, okay.
What was that drop down? How did you do that?
The feature is called toggle list. So let's go over here. I'm going to purposely go down. So you don't necessarily have to do it from existing text. I can hit that slash and then start typing toggle and you see it'll come up, toggle list and more awesome. Whoops, it would be nice if I could type more awesome stuff goes here. And I just created a new section where over here I can put whatever I want. It could be free form text. It could be a bulleted list. It could be a checklist, anything. Yeah. Good so far? Anyone have any questions? Okay, next. First, I'm going to show you a little bit of aesthetics over here. There's a lot that you could do with the aesthetics. I'm going to show you just a little bit because I want to get to the database type functionality because I think that's really where light bulbs are totally going to go off for everybody. And we're going to have a lot of, I'm guessing, a lot of active conversation. So for starters, at the top of every page in Notion, we have over here, you can see when I hover by the top, it shows add icon. So when you click on it, it will automatically pull any random icon and put it on the screen. And I can click on it and I can choose a particular emoji. When I say icon, I really meant emoji. It puts any random emoji. I can go here and I can search for a particular emoji. So if there's one emoji in particular I want to use, I can go ahead and select it, fine. But what I can also do is I can click on it and you see here where it says upload an image. So I happen to have a logo for Facebook on my desktop. So I'm going to go here where it says choose image. And it's going to give me the option desktop. So let's find it. Here we go. So if for whatever reason I wanted to put that Facebook logo, I can just put it right there and boom, I'm done. Next, we have over here where it says add cover. Again, by clicking on it, it's going to give me any random image it's going to put over there. I can then always go in here and click change cover. And I have some of these like default options that it gives me. I can go ahead and choose them. Or down here, it gives me some other pretty much random images from Unsplash. I can then go in here if I wanted to and search Unsplash. Maybe I want to have an image of a desk or an office. I can go here and I'm searching Unsplash for images of offices. So I can go here and choose whatever image I want. I can then go here and choose to reposition, to just place it wherever I like. And then if I decide, yeah, that Facebook thing, I don't know what I was thinking, let's go ahead and change it. And let's just put, let's say a book. So I'm going to go here and search emojis for book and just pick a book over here and boom, I just dressed it up a little bit, gave it its own custom look and feel. So think of this as a reference point. In Salesforce, imagine if each user had the ability to just put, I shouldn't say each user, that would be a little insane. But let's say the account owner for the account to be able to put whatever banner image and whatever icon so that anytime anyone looks at that record, that's what they see. Like this could be really cool stuff. So you can just with these two very simple things. I had no idea that there was Salesforce centric images in Unsplash. Thank you, Mark. I actually use Unsplash all the time. I don't think I've ever done a search for the word Salesforce. Anyway, so this is one way that you can totally customize the look and feel for any page that you have in Notion. Next, when you go here, you can select any text. So let's go here and whether I want to select just these words or the entire sentence, I can then go here and I can choose to give just those words a particular color. So if I do that, I chose green. And let's say if I go over here and I'll choose some other random set of words, I can also choose a background color. So let's say if I wanted the background of those words to be blue, I can do that, or I can do it for the entire thing. So let's say over here, I have resources to learn more. I want to make this entire thing to be, let's say, highlighted orange so that this way when it's closed, like it's reminding me that it's there. Or alternatively, if I want, because you see when I open it, like everything down beneath it does not have that orange background. If I wanted everything should have that orange background, I can go here and choose color and then choose orange. And now that entire section has that orange background. So you can use color a little bit to dress things up. Of course, you can also just upload images to really decorate. I'll use the word decorate your page to be however it looks. Next, from a layout perspective, let's say I wanted that these things should not be one on top of each other, but I wanted them to be separate columns. I can go over here. Let's take this one down beneath it, even though there's no content inside of it. I can take this block and then move it over here to the side and then just drop it. And I just created two columns. Let's go here and give this background color as well, so it looks a little bit even. So I have these two things over here, and then I have this down beneath. Now, if I wanted that all of this should appear as another column, I can go here and I can do that. Now, by the way, if I wanted to adjust the width of these columns, I can play around a little bit over here. And you might be wondering, why do you have all of this white space on the sides? When you on any page, you can go here and you can choose full width. And now you have the full width of the whole thing. And you can, again, play around with the sizing of these margins and drag and drop at any point. So if I decide, yeah, I want this to be down beneath, I can go ahead and move that. Any questions on any of that?
Does anyone know if full width is mobile friendly? Will it fit, or does it run off the page then? I haven't checked.
But that's a really good question. Just by coincidence, just yesterday, I was watching a video from Thomas Frank, and he was basically showing how having 2 or 3 columns on a full width, how it represents itself on mobile. So the short answer is, my understanding from watching that video just yesterday is that it will not necessarily represent itself in, like, these 2 columns will not represent themselves as side by side when looking on the phone. If I'm holding my phone this way, it won't represent themselves like side by side. It'll be like one block on top of the other. But then the question is, which one is above which? And if you care, then you need to look at it on your mobile device to control it. That's actually what he was talking about in that video that I was watching. Yeah. Anything else? Any questions from anyone? There's a lot more to cover. We're good so far? Okay. So basically what I showed you so far was like how Notion is similar to OneNote and Evernote, where you can just throw stuff in there, throw resources in there to have easy access to it. Where it takes it to an entirely different level is when we're talking about a database. And in theory, on this entire page, I could have just had a database represented here. But what I'm going to show you is how within this page, I can either embed a database or I can reference an existing database. Now, because I sort of want to show you from the perspective of we're starting from complete scratch, there is no, let's make believe there is no existing database. I've created probably more databases than I should have so far, just from playing around and testing different things, which is part of why I want to make sure to start like with a clean page. So like we're all like coming at from the same place. So let's make believe that over here, I want to create a database of tasks. Now in the real world, I would probably have a different database of tasks where I would want to include these things over here. This is where I want to get to include these things in that database, because these are tasks that I need to do. But these tasks happen to be associated to this record. Let's go ahead and rename this, by the way. Let's go ahead and call this Simulated Guidance on Roles and Profiles in Salesforce. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm just going to do a hard return a bunch of times. And over here, I'm going to start, I did a backslash, and it would be nice if I can actually type without typos. So do a backslash and I type in the word table. And over here, we see that there's an option for table inline. And when I go ahead and do that, this part is going to be very similar to Confluence, or at least it'll look like very similar to like Confluence. And let's go here, and we're not going to necessarily call this tasks, because I think that's something that should be really a separate database that's linked to this one. Let's call this follow up action items, because like I have this list over here, and maybe for some of them, I want to assign to myself, some I want to assign to other people. I want to give different priorities to some of these items in the bulleted list. I want to give different due dates associated to them. And you can't really do any of that as just a checklist. And this is where I think like Notion is just above and beyond, way cooler than anything else. So over here, we can see that by default, it's giving me 2 columns, basically the equivalent of 2 fields in this brand new table that I'm creating, this new database. So we have name and we have tags. I'll leave those 2 alone. Let's go ahead and add, following up with the simulation that I just gave you, let's go ahead and assign 2. And the property type, it's going to be a person. And let's go ahead and put in here, let's say date. So let's put this, make this due date. And it's going to be a date field. And let's go ahead and have priority. And we're going to make that a select. And then we go in here and configure the options. And for now, let's just make it super simple, high, medium. And all I really did was I created those options, the equivalent of pick list values in here, so that when I or anyone else clicks into it, we can see here are the options available. I'll pause. Anyone have any questions on anything I did so far? Okay. Then I might create other columns over here, other fields. For now, I'm just going to leave it alone. This is where I think like my head is still trying to figure out like, how the hell did it do that? So now that I created this checklist over here, if I have this table, whether the table is exclusively dedicated to this page or whether it's a general table that simply has attributes showing that it's related to this page or this, I can now go here and I can select all of these things right here. And I can go ahead and drag them over here and drop them. And I just turned that list, that checklist of items into individual records. And now I can go here and I can assign each one of these. This is an instance of Notion where I am the only user, but in theory, if I had other users I want to associate it with, I can do that right here. Now, by the way, you can, similar to bulk editing, inline bulk editing of list views, you can go here and I can select all of these. If I want to update the priority of all of them, I can hit here, edit property. And the property that I want to edit is priority and give it medium. And I just updated all of those records. If I wanted to give, let's say, just 2 of these a particular due date, again, I can go ahead and do the same thing. I'm updating the due date to make it here tomorrow, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, actually, I'll pause. Anyone have any questions on what I just did? By the way, I see in the comments over here about multi-select pick list. Multi-select pick lists actually work really well in Notion. What a crazy freaking concept. Like, oh my God. Like, why does it work so well? This is crazy. So yeah, we'll get to that another time. Actually, no, that works well over here. Tags. This is a great way to, here, if you can associate multiple tags and like you can then sort by those tags and all kinds of different, like whatever. It's really cool stuff. Yes, multi-select pick list is a good thing. All right, everyone good with what we have here so far? Because in my mind, I'm about to pivot. There's a lot more that I can show you in terms of like Notion functionality. I think just this bare bones basics is enough for now. I think what we should do at this point is start brainstorming on what is it that we would like to just as Salesforce admins. We don't go in and start building a database before building custom configuration before we figure out what are the business requirements. So let's figure out for all of us, let's make believe we're all on the same team. What are our cumulative community business requirements as it relates to utilizing, I shouldn't say utilizing Notion, reword that. What it is that we as admins selfishly need to be able to be more efficient and more productive as Salesforce admins. So let me adjust the share and I'm going to open up Lucid chart over here as a blank Lucid chart. And I definitely have some thoughts on this, but I want to hear from you guys. What do you think you need, you want to be able to keep track of or be able to do as far as being more efficient as a Salesforce admin?
Where are you using Lucid chart?
You don't see it? You don't see my,
Why are you using it?
oh, why? I'm about to capture whatever we talk about right now. I want to be able to capture like the business requirements essentially.
Okay, but that's what Notion's for.
But I purposely don't want to have.
I'm being humorous, but I'm saying.
I'm slow. I'm slow.
Okay.
So talk to me. What do you guys think?
Depends on your role. You may be in a role where you have less choice as to the tools you use. If you're a freelancer, you're picking a tool and you're trying to standardize on one way of collaborate.
let's forget about the tool. Let's think we're in the capacity of a Salesforce admin, whether you're a complete newbie or you're more advanced. What is it that you would like to be able to do or track to be more efficient? Occupation? Wait, what was that?
I'm sorry, documentation.
Yeah.
My org and keeping track of, yep.
So I'm thinking like along the lines of the phrase knowledge base. Let's go ahead and just give this a frame. And as it relates to knowledge base or parentheses, documentation, what attributes do you think we need to capture? And, or I'll rephrase it, what is it that we want to be able to do with it? I think we want to identify the source. So the source might be, let's go ahead and indent over here. The source might be a person, an organization. It might be a web resource, could be an article, podcast, video. Let's go ahead and adjust this a little bit. I'm thinking we probably want to be able to track the context in which we think it will be helpful for us in the future. So that might be for keeping your data clean, for financial services, for setting up data visibility in sales. So in some general way, like within what context it would be helpful.
I would say the date that it was most recently updated or found.
Yep, date it was found, updated. Yep, 100%.
And also maybe oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say a category. Is it dealing with, as you can guess, there's tons of categories.
Start tagging it. If you're going to start with a date found, you could also put, one thing I deal with a lot is expiration of the article. Is it out of date? When will it be out of date? Or when you need to go back to?
I'm also thinking like fast forward a couple of months. So let's say today I found a helpful article on, let's say, best practices around creating formula fields or validation rules. And then over the next couple of months, couple of weeks, couple of months, whatever it is, that I'm starting to actually utilize it to solve different problems. So maybe I want to be able to track where I actually leveraged it myself, to remind myself of if I've leveraged this before, and if so, within what context, without making myself crazy in terms of granularity. Is that overkill? Well, what do you guys think of that?
No, but also going on the date aspect, a date to revisit it. So maybe you're reading notes for the winter release 2 months from now or whatever, and oh, hey, there's going to be another update to Flow. I need to revisit this in 3 months, and then I can solve problems A, B, or C.
At the risk of getting a little too notion centric, if you're thinking of categories, then you're thinking about revisiting, then you might also have another list, which is your project work list or your subject areas of interest. And you're going to want to start building linkages between those references into the particular things you need to do on your horizon.
Jim, I agree with you 100%. And to me, that's one of the beauties of what Notion allows us to do, which is so crazy cool.
That's where we run into the limits of Evernote and OneNote, is I collected all this stuff, but I don't have the cross-referencing.
Yeah. So I'm going to call it cross-referencing of where this either can be used or has been used. And honestly, that might be it. I don't know. Hit me up. Am I missing anything?
I think building to that is really the goal, because then I start adding all the other things like community discussion references and documentation references, past project references, etc.
Yep, totally.
I have a question. So in the table where you had the option for due date, so does Notion give any reminders? Let us say like the one, like the example they gave, like you have something that you need to do 3 months from today. So does it give a reminder?
So that's a great question. What Notion gives is, so first of all, just recently Notion introduced APIs, which means that, for example, like through Zapier, I have not personally used any of the APIs whatsoever. I'm first learning the basics. So out of the box, I'll rewind a little bit. Without APIs, what Notion does give you is, especially because keep in mind the for people who have used Notion to run a certain area of their lives or their business, they build a database structure that is not like separate, disconnected databases, just the opposite, a consolidated layered database where at the uppermost layers, you have transparency and visibility to the tasks. So for example, tasks should be one centralized table that's used across your entire Notion setup, where you have one place to look to find all of those things that have upcoming follow-up or activity execution dates where something needs to be done. And at that highest level, where like a person who creates the equivalent of like their homepage or their dashboard, it will show them either in a calendar view or in a list view. Here are all of the things with the most pressing dates. That aside, with the API, in theory, you can have anything push like through Zapier to whether it's sending an email or appearing on your Google Calendar or whatever it is.
I think another interesting approach to that question is I feel like people who use Notion are in Notion all the time.
Yes.
So it's on their second screen. And so their to-do list or what, is front and center all the time. So they don't necessarily need reminders because that's where they live. So I'm not sure if that's helpful, but it gets past that limitation on reminders that you're always in it. You always see what's coming. You always see what's due.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm actually going to show you something now. I hope that what I'm about to show you will not be intimidating. My head is still trying to absorb all of this. So I've been trying to immerse myself in like best practices around Notion. And there are a couple of people out there on YouTube, etc., who like have courses on keeping track of your life or keeping track of your business or keeping yourself organized in Notion. And this is from August Bradley, who anytime I watch his videos, I feel like the dumbest person on earth. Like he just knows so much more about everything than I ever could. And basically what he shows is, so here you could see like this layered approach. And so here you see where it says action items of tasks. Those tasks can relate to anything. It can relate to, so here you could see, he's showing in this diagram at least, how you could use Notion as a CRM or accounting data, how you can have it for a production database. What we mean by production database is for content creation, like for creating YouTube videos and blog articles and keeping track of the topics and what's in the queue, what has been done, what needs to be edited. And here you could see where he's showing like action items correlate within the dashboard. You have today, this week, this month. And over here, you could see down below, the most fundamental layer is what he refers to as a knowledge vault or a knowledge bank, which is what we are talking about right now. And he has it broken up to these categories of media, books, courses, and training. All are all made up within, or they're all components essentially of the knowledge vault, and like everything fits in together. But again, like where we are right now, we're starting at the most basic fundamental level of just a knowledge base for Salesforce admins.
David, comment on that flow chart. Yes, it's intimidating, but one way we can think of this maybe is our goal is to convert this into the Salesforce administrator's flow chart for Notion.
Yes.
And that is, okay, what Bradley's done really is he's identified areas of data that are using Notion databases. And he's minimized the reuse of that information elsewhere. And then he builds dashboards that consolidate and provide views into that are relevant for that particular time or subject or whatever. And I think he's captured in this pretty much everything that you would need from a Salesforce admin's point of view. Building the knowledge vault, building the tasks, working with if you're working requirements and user stories and a list of things to get done, and then designs and solutions coming out of that, and the schedule for delivering it. And so I think it's all there.
It is. Yes. 100%.
Maybe I don't think we need Aura rings, but other than that.
Yeah. No, I think this is like completely brilliant. I'm just not feeling that comfortable with it, familiar with it yet. But I think it's in my mind, as dizzying as this page is, I would describe it as elegantly simple because it's actually putting everything together. So like where we have over here, projects can cut across anything. A project can be organizing my garage. It can be keeping track of something associated with my client database. A project could be something associated to my production database. And based on attributes of that particular thing, that project or that ask, that's where the filters come in to show anything from the knowledge vault, from the knowledge base that's relevant to that particular project. Yes, which is a little overwhelming, but very cool, I think.
It's overwhelming if you look at this as the end state, but if you
Right.
peel it back and you say, where do we start? And it could
Yes.
start on the knowledge vault side. It could start on task and projects, but you build that first and then you start tying the other stuff together as you go.
So what I'm going to suggest is, and I don't think we have enough time to really do it today, so I'll create a follow-up on it of really just building this out. And honestly, all of you can, with the free Notion account, all of you can do it at the exact same time to build this, where we can build this out together. It's really not that many fields that we need to create, and then start playing around with it to see like how it works. And I think what's going to come out of it is we're going to start realizing, let's say we have over here in organization, and someone's going to be like, maybe I want to see all of the articles that I found from all of the Trailhead related articles, or all of the articles from Salesforce Ben, or any of the best practices that I've accumulated from attending Salesforce user group meetups, I think, where I think some of us might be super eager to start building out other areas of the database. And honestly, you can, by all means, it's yours, do whatever you want. But I think going through this journey together, I think will be very helpful. And it might make us look back at some of the things we even have listed here and say, maybe that was overkill. Maybe we shouldn't worry that much about it right now and come back to some of these elements later, which is also, it's fine. Either way is completely fine. Anyway, any final thoughts before we wrap up for today? Because I see we're getting close to the top of the hour and I'm going to have to jump to another meeting. All right. Someone's going to say something?
I was going to say, I think this was a great start, and I just signed up for a free account, so I'll give it a go.
Awesome. I'm going to put in the Slack channel some voting for our next follow-up, and we'll take it from there. Hopefully we can all do this at a decent pace where none of us are feeling too overwhelmed, geeking out on this kind of stuff. But thank you all. Have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank
Dave.
you.